All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Can't wait to get into episode 356 of the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Cabral, board certified at Doctor of Naturopathy, founder of the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute. We started this podcast years ago simply to help our integrative health practitioners, as well as health practitioners, health coaches, personal trainers, nutritionists, massage therapists, estheticians, chiropractors, you name it. Anyone in this amazing natural health field to be able to build their practice and create a career that they love, one that they can be proud of and make a great living at the same time. Because after all, you're doing amazing work, you deserve to also enjoy the rewards as well. So let's get right into it. This is a show that means a lot to me. I've got another big show coming out in another couple weeks. But what I want to say is this, is that one of the ways that I've found success in my life, and I was actually talking about this the other day with a colleague, is that I started to surround myself with different people. And I want to share this with you because it can be misconstrued in the wrong way as a negative, but in the end, it's ultimately how you can make big breakthroughs. So when I was let's say in college, I was hanging around with a certain group of people, and I came from, it wasn't necessarily a small town or city, Medford, Massachusetts, but it was a lot. It was very homogenous, not necessarily in terms of like race or religion or whatever it was, but the same type of people, kind of like everyone at the same level. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but there wasn't just a lot of like highs and lows, kind of like we're all the same, which isn't necessarily bad. But what happens is you don't know what else is out there really in the world. And so I found it very interesting that when I went to undergrad at college, I met people from all different really walks of life, from socioeconomic, from, diverse backgrounds, interesting stories, and different levels of intellect, like whatever it might be. And so that was my first thing. It's like, wow, there's a lot of different people in this world, right? And some people were very content to just basically kind of drink away their 4 years, or, smoke a lot of weed, which again, like, totally fine. People can do what they want to do. And I have no issue with that. It's not like, I didn't consume any alcohol during college. Like I'm not saying that whatsoever. But what I'm saying is I just looked at it in different ways. Some people, they never went out. Some people, they became RAs. Some people signed up for the ROTC. Some people, as I said, it was literally almost no days off from drinking. And everyone kind of was on their own now as an adult. They were taking their own path. And then what I also realized is there's other people, though, that no matter what they did, whether they went out, didn't go out, they would go to the gym, or they would do things to better themselves. So I was like, oh, that's fascinating as well. It's like, I wanted to be one of those people. So I started to hang around more with those people as well. And what I realized was that I began then to pick up some of the habits of the people I started to hang around with, right? For better or for worse. And so when I realized that, I did try to spend more time with those people that I wanted to pick up more of those habits. Because again, I was from a city where I didn't know a lot of these different things. This was really new to me. And then when I got out of school was my best education. I was a nutritionist and personal trainer, and I've always said this. I worked, and I was just very fortunate to be hired as one of 33, or it was either 33 or 35 personal trainers at a high-end health club called the Sports Club LA. And it was in downtown Boston, inside of the Ritz Hotel and Residences. There was no other hotel in the world like this, 100,000 square feet, carpeted, and I say that because it was this beautiful wool carpet with these high-end machines. It was unbelievable. And I've been in gyms, for the previous 5 years. And this was nothing like I'd ever seen before. It wasn't like a Planet Fitness or a World's Gym that I was used to going to, or a Gold's Gym. And so I was 22 years old or so. There's one other 22-year-old. And then everybody spanned from, let's just say 24, 25, up to 55. And so I was the youngest. So I learned a lot from then. I learned a lot from the top personal trainers, again, that I tried to emulate. I would ask them questions, but sometimes I was intimidated. And a lot of times I watched what they did. I watched how they prepared for clients. They were professionals. In an industry that a lot of personal trainers just kind of make stuff up as they go along, they're texting on the phone. These people were professionals. I'm like, oh, It doesn't matter what your profession, you can be a professional. I love that. Then I started to work with clients, and these are high-end clients. These are clients that can afford $100+ personal training sessions. Now, I wasn't getting paid $100+. I was an employee there, but they were paying $100+ plus a couple $100 a month for membership. That was unheard of around the year 2000. And so what I realized from these clients, though, is that they look at life differently. They value things differently. Their work ethic is different. It doesn't make them better or worse than anybody else. But if you're trying to emulate success in business, these people were successful in business. So I said, what did they do? Well, they owned their schedule, right? They usually ran their own show, or they were a salesperson inside of an organization, or they moved up the ranks inside of a company to a vice president base level. They were committed to whatever it is that they were doing, and they were committed to be an expert in that space. I thought that was fantastic. The other big thing is that their job was to bring value to that company in whatever their specific role was. So I thought that was great. But not only that, they cared about how they held themselves. And being in shape and exercising was simply one part of that. And there were people who wanted the best for themselves and their family. Now, that's not always monetary based. It is oftentimes they wanted to seek out the best education for their kids, or the best, and again, yes, there are obviously investments for all of those things, but they like to know what the best was. And if they see value in it, they would invest in it. I'm like, wow, I don't have that type of money to be able to do those things. But I began then to look at other people in the field of nutrition and personal training, et cetera, who were doing big things. And I remember that back in the day, I would go to what are called Perform Better seminars, and I would meet people like Mike Boyle that I spoke about before, or Juan Carlos Santana back in the day, or Mark Verstegen. I'm trying to think of like the old school guys that were like right in the very beginning of that. Phil Kaplan. There was a bunch of these people, and I would read then their books because I could invest in books. Like books are like $15. So I always could invest in those. And I was always reading to better myself. And then I tried to read the books and then end up at the seminars, which might be $90, $99, $199. I needed CEUs anyway, and I wanted to get closer to those individuals. Now I'm getting to the point of this show, is that then when I went to these seminars, I thought that the people I was hanging around with, the 33 other personal trainers, and maybe let's say like 10 of those people were the top ones, and of course it was even less than that it was great to hang out with them. But then I realized once I went to these seminars, it was even a higher caliber individual, because now they were people that were investing in themselves. So I'm at this event, and I can clearly pick out who some of the top people are by the way that they hold themselves, by people asking them questions. And I would try then to get around those individuals as well. And simply because I wanted to learn what it was that they were doing that set them apart. Now, some of the things I liked and some I didn't. I was never big on showboating. I was never big on being that person who had to have their shirt off all the time and the shoes off all the time and just kind of like, hey, look at me. And again, I'm not against that. There's a lot of people doing really well on social media doing that, but it's not what I wanted to necessarily stand on. That's all. Again, like that was it for me. And so part of it is knowing what works for you, because people can be successful in different ways. So then I started to gravitate, just like in college and just like in my first jobs, gravitate to those people that I wanted to emulate, be more like. So that's what I did. And I started to connect with those individuals. I started to learn more about how they practiced or did their personal training, nutrition, et cetera. Started to do some online-based courses or ebooks, those types of things, because that's what they were doing. Ends up, that wasn't really the thing that I loved to do, but wanted to try to emulate it. Again, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with trying it, especially if there's not a lot of negatives or detriments to it. Then I start to move more into functional medicine. Back then, I called it functional medicine. Now, functional medicine, unfortunately, is more hormone prescription based, so I call it integrative health. So I started to connect with more integrative health practitioners, like my mentor, Dr. Pete, but there were many other people. And I started to learn from them, like, what are they doing? And then I started to go to the Institute for functional medicine and start to meet other people there. And even though it wasn't necessarily my people, it's 80% or so conventional medicine based, I learned, again, what sets certain people apart. And so what I want to share with you here today is be very careful who you surround yourself with. And that includes online as well. There are many people that people are trying to emulate without knowing what is actually happening in the background of their business and if it's actually successful or not. There are so many people who have, let's just say, 100,000 followers, 1 million followers, and those aren't real followers, right? Those are not real, authentic. And they're promoting a lifestyle that may not actually be true as well. So what I actually recommend is saying, who are people closer to the level that you're at and one level up, maybe two? And I want to share one more story. Why this is important is that I never really ran a big online type career, business, etc. But I wanted to explore more of it because by about 2015, 2016 at the latest, at least a third of my appointments, even though we were sold out in Boston for 6 months, at least a third of those were Skype appointments. We used Skype way back in the day. And so they were tele-wellness-based appointments. And so I wanted to learn more about it. So I started to join groups that had online-based businesses. I wanted to know, how did it work? How do they process payments? How do they schedule these things? What assistants do they use? What CRMs do they use? How do they build their website? What do they offer? I just wanted to learn all of that. Not that I was going to necessarily implement it myself, but then also who are the team members I need? How did I need to build this from the ground up? And so that was a couple levels above me. But here's the amazing thing that it also did. When I was in the room with 20 or 30 other girls and guys who had built these businesses, I started to realize that they're not too much different than me. I've had success in my own field. They've had success in their field. I could translate the success that I've had into a different field. And so it started to give me confidence that these people aren't wildly different than who I am. And so when you start to connect with other people that maybe just another level or two above where you're at, because we're talking career today, you'll begin to realize that you too can make this happen. I just really urge you only to take advice and be around people that are genuine, authentic, and have already done it. And because if they've already done it, they're teaching you genuinely and authentically. If you follow this protocol, or this, I always say protocol because we're in the health field, it will lead you to success. However, it may not lead you to 100% success. It might lead you to like 80 or 90% success. And then you are going to adapt it for your life, your practice, who you are. It's like our CBO protocol. We give you the food list, we give you the supplements. In the beginning, you might have to just start with 1 capsule instead of 2, because it might be a little strong for you in the beginning. Or we give you the food list, but there might be a couple foods that you're still sensitive to. So you eliminate those. You adapt it slightly for you. And that's what I found, is that I won't do anything that doesn't feel good to me, that doesn't pass the gut test. And the gut test in business is, does this feel kind of slimy? And if it does, I say no. Or I look more into it as like, why are people doing this? Is there efficacy to it? Is this a smart thing to do? Is this really a hang up that I have? And if it's not a limiting belief and it's just like, yeah, this is not how I want to do business, I don't do business that way. And I don't hang around with those types of groups. So not everyone is the right fit for you, but the more that you connect to other like-minded individuals at events like the Reimagined Health Summit or other live events like that, you're going to be able to share stories with each other. You're going to be able to share stories of success, what you've done to take your career to the next level, how you can maybe even help others, and then continue to grow, because there's always a next level. That's what I found. So I just wanted to share that with you here today, because in 2 weeks, I'll be back with another show. Julia's connecting with you next week, and I'm going to be talking about finishing the year strong. And why this is so important is that it is often who you know, the events you go to, the coaches you connect with, and the plans that you begin to follow that allow you to be set up for success or continue to cause you to struggle. So hopefully today's show was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning into the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. You can find all the takeaways, all the show notes at ihp.coach/356. And of course, if you're not already an IHP, do not delay. Today is the last day to join our September cohort. And then, of course, you can always connect with an IHP admin counselor at ihp.coach. Take care, everybody. Have an amazing rest of the day.